Hi there and welcome to another video from HEGARTYMATHS. It's Mr. Hegarty here and I'm doing a video on expanding double brackets and it's called fluency that I'm dealing with. So, what I'd like us to be able to do in this video is to expand and collect like terms for expressions such as the following. Now we have done this in a previous video, but the key idea here is I want us to do this with what's called fluency, and I'll explain what that means on this slide. Now, fluency, you tend to hear that with the term associated with language, to be fluent in French or German or another language. And what fluency means is some of the things in this picture. With language, it means I don't translate things in my head and wonder whether it's a verb or a noun. I know how to respond to something that someone throws at me unexpected. I'm comfortable and not terrified working things out. I know that language is a sum of words, and I can use those ideas to build on other words. I can relate and communicate with others, and here's the key idea for me for fluency. Fluency, it feels intuitive, unconscious and smooth. And what I'd like to do in this video is just take a second to try and become fluent at expanding brackets. Right, now here's a question I've shown you how to do before. And what I told you to do is I said to decompose this and say this, when you're doing this, is the same as x multiplied by the whole of this second bracket. And then we have plus 2, positive 2 multiplied by the whole of this bracket. Then we expand the brackets. X multiplied by x is x squared. X multiplied by 8 is 8x. Positive 2 multiplied by x is positive 2x. And positive 2 multiplied by positive 8 is positive 16. Then I told you, highlight all the separate terms, so highlight your x squareds, highlight your x's, and lastly, highlight your number. And in total then, we would have x squared plus, or add 10x, add 16. Okay, now I want you to remember this method. It's a good method, so remember this and use this in exams. However, how could I have just, this is the question of this video, how could I have just, without that working, got from here to the answer, which would have been x squared add 10x add 16? Can you see a way of getting from here to here? Well, maybe you'll notice that you have to do x multiplied by x to give you the x squared. And maybe you'll notice that 2 multiplied by 8 gives you the 16. And lastly, you might notice that 2 add 8 gives you the number of x's, i.e. positive 10x. So maybe we could do it that way. So let's try with another example. I'm just going to write down the answer straight away here in my head. I know the answer is as follows. Could you see how I got from here to here in one move? Well, x multiplied by x gives me the x squared, and positive 5 multiplied by positive 3 is positive 15. And lastly, what you could do is 5 add 3 gives me the positive 8x. So that's how we would get that. So therefore, in general, I'm going to try and generalize this point here. So this might be the general rule. If we had x plus a number a and x plus a number b, you always get an x squared. Then you would have, how many x's would you have? Well, you'd have a plus b lots of x. And what number would you have? You would have a multiplied by b. So in our case up here, we have the x squared. 5 plus 3 is equal to 8. So we would have 5 plus 3 lots of x, which is 8x. And we would have 5 multiplied by 3, which is 15, is our number. So I would like you to try in this video, if you can, just as an experiment, can we get from here to here using a fluent method in our head? Let's have a go at another one. X add 5 multiplied by x subtract 3. I'm going to tell you the answer is x squared add 2x subtract 15. And I want you to think how I got there. Well, x multiplied by x gives me the x squared as before, and positive 5 multiplied by negative 3 gives me a negative 15. So that explains that. And positive 5 add negative 3, so we're at positive 5 at the number line, and we combine that with negative 3, which is the same as subtracting 3, 1, 2, 3, we would end up at positive 2. So 5 take away 3 would give me the 2. Let's try another one. I'm going to tell you the answer is x squared subtract 2x subtract 15. I'd like you to just take a second to think how I got from here to here. Well, the x multiplied by the x gave me the x squared as before. Negative 5 multiplied by positive 3 gave me the negative 15. And lastly, negative 5 add 3 is negative 2, and that explains my negative 2x. Right, let's have a go at another one. They're both negative in this case, and I'm going to tell you the answer is x squared subtract 8x add 15. Think for a second if you can get from here to here in your head. Well, this is what I did. X multiplied by the x gives me the x squared. Negative 5 multiplied by negative 3 gives me positive 15, that term. And negative 5 add negative 3. So what I mean by that is I'm at negative, let's say 5 on the number line over here, and I combine it with another negative 3, that's the same as subtracting 3, I end up at negative 8. And hence I get my negative 8x. Okay, here's one more. X plus 5 squared. Well, in your head you should be translating that straight away as x plus 5, x plus 5. And using our fluency model, we could say this is the same as, well, x multiplied by x is x squared. We would do 5, add 5 would be 10 x's, so positive 10x, and 5 multiplied by 5 is positive 25. Right, here's another one. X subtract 6 all squared. Well, I want you to think of that obviously as x subtract 6, x subtract 6. And then what I would like you to do is x multiplied by x would have given me x squared. Negative 6, add another negative 6. So you're at negative 6 on the number line, and you add another negative 6. It's like subtracting 6. You end up at negative 12. That tells you have negative 12x, and negative 6 multiplied by negative 6 is positive 36. So if you're not comfortable with the fluency method, it doesn't matter. It's absolutely fine if you've got your normal method of doing it. But if we could start thinking in this way, it would help us do questions quicker. So what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to try these questions by doing them in your head and writing the answer straight away down. In 10 seconds, I'll show you the answer. And the answers are as follows. Now, let's just a quick talk through this because it's slightly more difficult to do these things in your head. Here, x multiplied by x gave me the x squared, 3 add 7 gave me the 10x, 3 multiplied by 7 gave me the 21. X multiplied by x gave me x squared, 3 add negative 7 is negative 4x, that would give me, and 3 multiplied by negative 7 is negative 21. X multiplied by x is x squared, negative 3 add 7 is 4, positive 4, so we have positive 4x, negative 3 multiplied by 7 is negative 21, and x multiplied by x is x squared, negative 3 add another negative 7 is negative 10, so we have negative 10x, negative 3 multiplied by negative 7 is positive 21. And the same idea works for the rest of these. One thing to point out here, 8 add negative 7 is 1, and we would write 1y as just y. In the same case here, negative 8 add 7 is negative 1, and we write negative 1y as just negative y. And one thing to point out here, all I did in this case was I had the number before the variable here, so it was the same thing. I squared the 7, get 49. Well, I would write this as 7 subtract x, 7 subtract x firstly. 7 multiplied by 7 is 49, and negative x multiplied by negative x gave you positive x squared. Now 7 add 7 is 14 in this case, but we're dealing with negative x's, so we've got 14 negative x's or negative 14x. That's where the negative 14x comes from. And sometimes mathematicians just write that with the x's before the number. So they would rewrite this as x squared, subtract 14x, add 49. That's all for this video. Hope you found it useful in developing your mathematical fluency. Thanks for watching.